Hey everybody, Maurer here, and today we're going to be looking at the reservation count for the Tesla Cybertruck versus the Ford F-150 Lightning for respective periods of time after the unveiling. We've got more price changes from Tesla, an update on the Plaid Plus Model S, Tesla possibly expanding into Russia, and a couple other stories as well. Tesla stock today, despite popping up above $600 per share in the pre-market, did fall 1% on the day to $580.88. That compared to the Nasdaq, which also dropped throughout the day, finishing down 0.5%. We did have an updated analyst note on Tesla stock today from Bank of America. They lowered their price target on Tesla from $900 per share previously down to $700 per share. One of the reasons for that being that the stock price has dropped. So we actually kind of saw this on the way up as well, with analyst firms covering Tesla saying that as Tesla's stock price rose, they had lower cost of capital, and that helps them justify a higher stock price. Well, we're kind of seeing the opposite now. So Bank of America saying with the falling stock price, Tesla's diminished its ability to, quote, utilize its stock to raise capital through low-cost equity offerings, end quote. So that theory did make sense on the way up. It makes sense on the way down as well, but you've got to question the magnitude of impact. Tesla still has a very high market cap. It's right around $560 billion, so Tesla could raise $5.5 billion with 1% dilution. Is that really that impactful when Tesla, at their higher stock prices, could have raised $5.5 billion for 0.7% dilution? Personally, I don't think it matters all that much. The impact really depends on how much money you expect Tesla to need to raise. Apparently, Bank of America says that these are still much needed sources of funding for Tesla. But Tesla can still access the debt market. It's not like they have to sell stock to get money. They're actually in a pretty good debt position, and the financials are just getting stronger and stronger, so interest payments should be pretty easily absorbed by Tesla going forward, even if they did increase their level of debt. So I'm not really buying Bank of America's logic on the lowering of this price target. They also said that they've now lowered their multiples. This part of the note was shared out on Twitter by Brad Munchin, and it shows their enterprise value to sales multiple at 15.5x, down from 23x before, and their enterprise value to EBITDA multiple down to 89x from 118x previously. It's kind of interesting because they dropped their price target by 22%, but they dropped their multiples there by 33% and 25% respectively. If everything else was held equal, those should have been the same percent changes. So unless they changed their cash or debt outlook, they may have actually increased their revenue and EBITDA forecasts with this update. I don't have the full note, so I can't see for sure. But in simple terms, they're not actually lowering their forecasts here. They're just lowering what they think the market will value those forecasts at, which is kind of the dirty little secret of price targets, right? You could get a 100% accurate forecast in terms of the actual fundamental numbers and still be just wildly off on what the price actually is based on those numbers, depending on just how the market feels at that point in time, whether it wants to put a high multiple on growth or not. Pretty similar to the concept we were talking about on Monday. Sometimes in these short periods of time, the macro is going to be the biggest factor. All right, next up here, I want to talk a little bit more about the Ford F-150 Lightning because we've got a couple new data points that have been shared by Ford CEO Jim Farley, which allow for an interesting comparison to the Tesla Cybertruck, and that is reservation count. Yesterday morning, about 12 hours after the unveiling, Farley shared with CNBC that Ford already had about 20,000 reservations for the electric F-150. He then tweeted this morning that they were over 44,500 reservations. This is kind of fun for us because the F-150 Lightning and the Cybertruck both have $100 order fees that are fully refundable. So we're looking like for like here, very comparable sets of data. And we know Cybertruck reservation numbers in the week following unveiling because of a series of Elon Musk tweets. So I've gone ahead and plotted out the various data points that we have on this graph. You can see Ford in blue, Cybertruck in red. Ford, after about a day and a half, had about 45,000 reservations. Elon's first update was just a little bit after a day and a half, a couple hours. So at that point in time, Tesla had 146,000 reservations, over 100,000 more, about 3 times as many, over almost the same period of time. And both unveilings were at night, within an hour and a half, so shouldn't be any weird time shifting stuff happening there. So it's pretty cool to have this data. Again, I think this is relatively comparable. The couple of question marks on the comparison here would be around the commercial Ford F-150 Lightning. Because we don't yet have all the details on that, we might see a spike in orders once those details become available, which we expect to happen on Monday. But I don't expect that to be a significant factor because, again, these are fully refundable, and a reservation you make now can go towards that commercial version. So I don't think that would change too much. And then on the Cybertruck side, Elon has said that the full self-driving option price would be locked in with an order. That's going to drive orders up, of course, but I don't think that was known in this first week of reservations that we're looking at here. Now, it's possible my memory is failing me on that point, so if anyone knows differently, please correct me. But I don't think that was a factor yet, so again, I think these are pretty comparable. The craziest part about this is, I don't know if you've seen these, but Ford has been advertising the Ford F-150 Lightning like crazy. And maybe that's all just happened to be targeted right at me. That's certainly possible. But I've seen them advertising on AdWords. I've seen them advertising on YouTube. I've seen them advertising on Hulu. And Tesla tripled these numbers in the first day and a half without any advertising. And remember, the Ford F-150, we're talking about the best-selling truck in the world here. So this is not a knock on Ford's numbers. It's just a testament to how strong the reservation numbers and the interest in the Cybertruck really is. While we're on the topic of the F-150 Lightning, of course, yesterday we went through some numbers estimating the battery pack capacity. When doing that, I didn't account for losses during charging. Unfortunately, we don't know what the losses might be from Ford's marketing material. I would assume that they would have a setup that would minimize those as much as possible. They probably want to make those charge times look as short as they can. But assuming there's, I don't know, a 10% loss then, my estimates would come down to the standard pack being maybe 112 kilowatt hours and the extended pack being maybe 153 kilowatt hours, but you're just going to have to put in whatever loss you think is reasonable. But I did want to update on that because I do think that's probably a factor that needs to be considered in those estimates. All right, next up here, we yet again have more price changes for Tesla. So we've got updates on the Model 3 and the Model Y non-performance versions. And again, we're seeing, if we break out the handy dandy price change table, and in case you're not seeing the pattern here, we've got April week 1, April week 3, May week 1, May week 3. Every couple of weeks, Tesla's increasing their prices. And for the last 3 iterations, this has been $500 price increases on the non-performance versions. So very systematic and slow, methodical price raising from Tesla that has continued. I won't belabor the points that we've made in previous episodes about demand being strong, and of course a potential EV credit looming, but on the other hand, rising material costs and supply chain issues that have persisted across industries in Q2. Regardless of the reasons here, we're now $2,000 more expensive since the start of Q2 on the standard and long range Model 3 and Model Y, with the performance Model 3 being $1,000 more expensive and the performance Model Y holding. We'll see where things go from here, but keep an eye on June 3rd if this pattern does hold, which also happens to be the Model S delivery event. Speaking of the Model S, Tesla has also made an update there in the design studio. They have grayed out the Plaid Plus as an ordering option, maybe trying to push more people into the Plaid, maybe just trying to alert people that, hey, it's going to be a while before that's available, or maybe stopping taking orders because they want to raise the price later on. All right, next up here, we've got a report from Bloomberg about Elon Musk and Tesla in Russia. So Elon was speaking to Russian students. I don't know if this was a virtual conference or an in-person conference, but during the conference, Elon remarked, quote, "I think we're close to establishing a Tesla presence in Russia, and I think that would be great. Over time, we will look to have factories in other parts of the world, potentially Russia at some point," end quote. So Russia is a pretty decent sized vehicle market. It looks like new car sales are usually in the range of 1.5 to 2 million per year. Top selling models do about 100,000, quite a few over 20,000. Just on a kind of cursory review here, I think the Model 3 and Model Y could be somewhere in that ballpark. And if Tesla goes further down market, they could easily do, I believe, more than 100,000 across the lineup. I believe the extent of Tesla's presence there right now is 1 supercharger in Russia. So we'll definitely keep an eye on how that develops. All right, last couple of quick items here. We got another update from Joe Tegmeyer on the castings at Giga Texas, and these are really starting to pile up. Tesla's making a lot of castings at Giga Texas right now. With this many being spotted, I think the obvious question is, are these just still testing validation items? Definitely possible. Tesla can recycle them and they're going to need a lot to validate the production process, but it is still a lot. So I guess it depends on kind of what we see in terms of the transportation of these. If we continue to see them being shipped out, then maybe Tesla's actually leveraging Giga Texas already for some production parts. If anyone feels like they've got a good theory on that, definitely let us know in the comments. And then last thing today, just a quick update on the Roadster. Of course, we talked about that yesterday, but Elon did add another tweet while we were publishing, happens sometimes, saying, quote, "This will actually be able to fly very briefly. I always laughed at flying cars and now making one. Fate loves irony. Haha," end quote. So obviously we've heard Elon talk about this idea before, but as I was mentioning yesterday, it seems like they may have made some design decisions now on the SpaceX package. So for him to continue to reiterate that, I think it's interesting. So I guess we'll see what happens. But that will wrap it up for today and for the week. As always, thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and signed up for notifications. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, I don't plug this a lot, but you can find details about doing that at patreon.com/Tesla Daily Podcast. And I'll see you next week for the Monday, May 24th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.